the other chamber and the process all repeats. There have been changes or amendments within the chambers, they have to come back together and discuss. So the whole point of this slide is way more complicated than I envisioned. I remember the federal provider status bill, and there was a majority favor, but it never even got to committee. So, and Emily, bless her heart, spends a lot of time at the Capitol with testimony now. I'll go down as well when there's big things coming up or bills that the Colorado Pharmacists Society is passing. But for the most part, Emily is really the face of Colorado Pharmacists Society at the Capitol, which is awesome. Okay, so what's happened in the last few years? So that happens to be, and so that one's serious. Emily and I were testifying, obviously the COVID era, when we didn't testify very much. But I kid you not, there was all sorts of drama going on at the Capitol with COVID. And there was a bill, believe it or not, to allow, basically, I don't even remember all that. It was so ridiculous. But there was a bill about prescribing ivermectin and basically endorsing it. And yep, that person was down there at the Capitol. That's the basement with that sign, ivermectin for horses. And literally, we got a text from our lobbyists about 8:30 at night. Like, you guys are going to testify. How? But we ended up getting online and testifying, I think, about 10 o'clock at night virtually. And I was like, yeah. But testifying, and there were pharmacists, 8 pharmacists that were testifying in favor of one of our graduates, one of them goes for coffee. But anyway, that there's all sorts of drama that goes on at the Capitol, which is never funny. So I just wanted to start with a few highlights and kind of give you, kind of talk about why we did, a few things that we're really proud of. Without reading the slide, Sunset was probably one of our biggest accomplishments. And our Pharmacy Practice Act goes through sunset every 10 years, 11 years, in which they look to see if our Practice Act is contemporary, not overly restrictive. Anyone know, like, for your practice, perhaps, like, what's one really important thing that we might have cracked that included or got lost in sunset?
Was it the PrEP, HIV PrEP?
So we got, that was a statewide protocol in PrEP that we worked with in Colorado. But close. That ended up being a specific bill for PrEP. Cholesterol, so that we had a statewide protocol for statins. We were second in the country to get a statewide protocol for pharmacists to prescribe statins. There. All right. Huh? Okay. Any takers? So we have, as a result of Sunset, one of the most progressive pharmacy practice acts in the country. And I couldn't believe some of the language that we got last, frankly. But pharmacists can now prescribe drugs that don't require a new diagnosis for fraud. Second, conditions that are minor and self-limited, or basically pursuant to a CLA test. So, RAP, for examples. So anybody know who's really kind of running with this more than anybody? Safeway, yeah. Safeway, Albertsons. And a lot of them are. You're going to work with Safeway, Albertsons? Yeah. No, that's awesome. We are so happy with Safeway, Albertsons. We're really taking the lead on this. So they have, and I'll tell you one story though. So you're thinking about this, but they have really taken the lead with a lot of prescribing for UTIs. You know what else? Homeschoolers, so you do self-therapy secretary. That's one way to yeah, they get this thing. Yeah, it's analysis that. Yeah, I know it's on the list. It's great. It's great. One fun fact, asking for, we had an individual call Emily who had a UTI, and for anybody that's had a UTI, right, you know, like but asking for a friend, she had a UTI, and she called a couple Safeways, and they're like, "We talking about you, UTIs, we can give you a COVID vaccine." So, but make sure that changes. But kudos to Alberts and Safeway, because they really embrace this. And I would say, you know, we gotten, if I do say so myself, you know, we've gotten good at skills, but we really need you guys to embrace that, push it forward. So the big, you know, emphasis is scope. We made huge strides with Sunset and payment providers, right? So, you know, all of those take time, and we've had huge wins, but, you know, we need all of our instances out there to hopefully embrace it. You know, I know some of our independents are doing great things too. You know, payment's the biggest hurdle, right, for us. We just have to get payment. But anyway, so those are the things that passed. We ended up working with a lot of stakeholders, and we were just really, really great at college. The other one that the school and myself were really not as involved with, because we worked with our Medicaid and didn't want to make them too proud of us, but really important. And others really, they were awarded the ASCP Champion of Pharmacy Award this past year for is Medicaid provider status. So huge win. So we can now bill for services for Medicaid from the person in our practice. So the CDTMs, it didn't open up all the CDTMs get the protocols, but it didn't necessarily have all this new stuff, which is weird. It just was part of what we're allowed to do and not do as part of the Sunset Act. So huge wins, and super proud of the state society too. And I should say that one of the, even though Emily and I were both at the school, and I'm obviously still at the school, I think we both said, you know, the state society should really be taking the lead on this. And that our dean put in money and resources to get it going. And then there was some changeover with the state society. I ended up running for the board, was elected to the board. Emily was elected to the board. And then she became executive directors too. So, you know, really, mostly it's state societies across the country that push this stuff forward. And we're really in a good position now where we've got solid people with CPS. All right. 2022. I just want to give you a few highlights. The PDMP was one. So what the PDMP, that particular bill, is it does require every prescriber to query PDMP. How many of you are on my small prescriptions check the PDMP procedures? Yeah, I would argue it's probably the standard of practice to do that as well. However, the law is that every prescriber must query the PDMP prior to writing a prescription for opioid or benzodiazepine. Every pharmacist must register. So if you're not registered, register. let's see, all the other pieces of the department are limited designates. Okay. And then the one that was really more controversial that was telepharmacy. And they have been thinking about telepharmacy, but it's telepharmacy, huh? Feel it. You feel like you do it all day long? Yeah. But we just set out, especially during our calling cases, evaluating them, communicating with providers, and that the difference is. So what telepharmacy is it allows, mostly for rural communities, but if you have a location that it doesn't make financial sense to open a pharmacy, you can open a telepharmacy, have a video connection, so it's backed by a technician, and you have a video connection to the home store, in which you have the pharmacist actually have a video connection to those who follow their activities. Oh, it goes in for an idea where yeah. I saw and the board also has to, this ended up being like huge fight. Because independent pharmacists that are serving some rural communities saying they're going to take over with the telepharmacy, which was never ever the intent. But I did see Debbie was talking about one in Russian. Okay, and I saw that B&B Drug is on the board agenda for May to get a telepharmacy approved. But it does require the board to define area of need. The legislators are like, all the Walgreens downtown are closing, open telepharmacy there. So I know that it's really turned out to be as big of an issue as a lot of people thought, because a lot of the ones are taking advantage of it. But anyway, that it ended up in a big fight.
All right, 2023. So the two biggest wins, I would say, well, there's a few. There's two big PBM wins. Anybody know who those two folks are? Yeah.
Okay. So on the left is Sydney Zachary, who she graduated last year. And then Sonia Hawkes Lewis, who is the one pharmacist in my list. So she's a senator. She is very, very proud of being a pharmacist. Yeah, so we never print. We do have students that are on rotation on the legislative advocacy sound right now. Yes, she probably was so happy about it. Yeah. So I just want to highlight the things that are going on in 2023. So the first one was this particular bill called 27. That PBMs operating in Colorado must register to the Department of Insurance. They still have to define what all the registration requirements and rules are, but it just passed and was signed yesterday, in which PBMs must register a fee to the department, and it actually provides the Department of Insurance DOI resources to go and monitor what PBMs are doing in libraries. So all the things that we got passed, like spread pricing or PIR codes, all those things will actually have some teeth right now. So we passed the laws, but otherwise we're like, oh, yes, whatever, until something comes out, there's something that we want. But that was just signed into law by the governor. The other one,
This is spread pricing. Who knows what spread pricing is? I know it's written there. So an example might be that, I'll read it to you, but it's charged by the PBM to the employer for a prescription drug to be equal or less than the amount paid by the PBM to the contracted pharmacy. So it prevents the PBM from saying, okay, we're going to pay you $20 for filling this prescription, but we're going to charge the employer $100 to keep the difference. So that's been a big tactic of PBMs. And you're seeing that on the national level too, that there's a lot of interest in nationally preventing spread pricing. But that just got passed. This was actually brought forward by Medicaid and signed yesterday by our governor. We'll also be in transparency. I've been showing all the prices that will go into effect in 2025. That's a component of the bill. And violations, if they do this, are actually subject to the Colorado Consumer Protection Act. So we're starting to chip away at some of those PBM practices. And I should say, because we come alumni, yes, sometimes Lauren will tell me like, you're in but they have good jobs. They can do good things. But it's evolved into a very lucrative, unregulated industry in which pharmacies are often using to run out of business. So I hope that they deserve to make money like we all do, but hopefully there'll be some balances in that. Oh, that was Sam yesterday, in fact. Still signing. That's you. Yeah. And it's obviously Emily. And that was Senator Kyle Malika. And that was the bill signing yesterday. The other one that I want to mention, there's a couple of them. This one was run by the Retail Council. Who knows what the Retail Council is? So the big players in pharmacy down at the Capitol are CPS, of course, Colorado Pharmacy Society, of course, has the best reputation. But the Retail Council, and the Retail Council they represent the big chains, the retail, like the Walgreens, the CVS pulled out, but Walgreens, huh? Did they really? There's pharmacies that don't. Pharmacies that don't. Oh, they are still in it? Okay. Just not the big, okay. So Walgreens, Kroger, the big Walmart, the big chains, Safeway, yeah. But they truly represent the business of those retail outlets. So, and they're not just pharmacy. They were the people that brought, Lucky for All Us. Got rid of 3-2 beer, grocery store, who got real beer. And, so they do represent the businesses of retail. But make no mistake, they do represent the business side of retail, as well. So they brought this bill forward, increase the access to pharmacy services, title. But the first point they did is that they want to initially and when I say we, Colorado Pharmacy Society said no, we're not going to go with that. We look at pharmacists burnout, that came up with there and again. And as you all know, we have the greatest tech, your life is so good that you have not so good tech, it's really hard. And you would have to be worrying all day. But watching that person develop mistake. And no one is comfortable with that. So, and when I say no one, we surveyed
serving all the stakeholders, not just our opinions, but all those making models should be. And it was very for like, yeah. So we ended up negotiating an 8-to-1 tech ratio in central fill only. So for those locations that have highly automated central fill locations, they can run 8-to-1 techs, but everywhere else is as it has. If they have that ratio, the majority of them certified, they wanted to open up technician scope of practice to allow final verification by techs.
Tech. The military doesn't.
There's limited data out there, but certainly the CPS membership is not comfortable with it. So but we wanted to preserve technician scope what was allowed in food, right? So if you're doing like out of you can have swab the nose or whatever. That's great, right? But those can provide organizations and the things that technical tasks that don't necessarily require one of the really good provisions of the bill was it does expand pharmacies' ability to provide vaccinations for the Medicaid patients. However, it's a pilot, it's going to be a role with the Vaccines in Children program, so much more to come. But as you all know, you've got Medicaid folks that are in your pharmacy, they don't get their vaccination bill for kids, that makes sense. It's hard, and it's hard for a lot of the families. But that's a really good part, that scaled back considerably from what it was first intended. I want to mention this one too. Automated pharmacy dispensing systems. Please don't ever call this a dispense or a vending machine. A lot of our legislators who got on the news and they'd be like, "It's lightning, it's so easy." No, it's not. Yeah, so I've never seen that. But it does allow prescription drug outfits, clinics to basically have these dispensing machines. So they're not yet seen on in person, but
if you go to University of UC Health, go to the atrium pharmacy, the main area, they have one.
But I think that is a little bit different.
So the pharmacist check everything just like normal. The patient has to set it up, and then it's checked, and then it's loaded into that, and the person pays for it there. And there is some OTCs in there, but they can put their stuff in there. And then it was originally designed for staff members working graveyards, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Okay.
But they have access to their meds because they can't do it during the pharmacy hours.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to see one, I forget the name of it, but it's in the main.
I still think it's next time.
Yeah.
But regardless,
The atrium has.
this is intended to be a video screen that the pharmacist is there monitoring the transaction, providing counseling, envisioned or this fit for like emergency departments and while we're in pharmacy, you can get your counseling, get your meds. Pharmacists are still required to perform clinical services. If you have controlled substances, it has to be located on the same physical site. What do you think the objection was? Feeling it? Someone access means feel listening. I know there were other questions on it, but it's crowbar and securities. Yeah.
Security.
Actually, the biggest pushback is from rural pharmacists, afraid that they were set in place these automated dispensing machines and displace the rural prints. It hasn't. Can I say something? Yes, it has to be owned by prescription drug outlets, and they're in charge of the inventory. There was a lot of press on this, so you have the little spots that you can have different, news and whatnot. They say, no, like it's not, I want to take this prescription, all this stuff I really does. Well, it doesn't matter if you walk over from the pharmacy to the kiosk, so it doesn't have to be, you'll have to come ahead and, get it set out. And it's going to be limited. But I think I look at it as technology's here. We're going to have to figure this out and embrace it and put in those safeguards for patient safety. Hopefully we want to protect pharmacists' role too. Some things are really important. That does. But I think it'll be interesting to watch this. So is this more like when you fill it, labeled, it's counted, it's everything, they just put it in here so they can scan it in like a built on box that you go to?
Yeah, so it's you scan it out with your own register.
Yeah.
So you have a whole text terminal. You put them in a spotlight, and then the technician will open it up, and they'll just hang there.
So those are pickup lockers. They're storage lockers. And those are,
It's a kiosk. They call it their kiosk.
they call it. So this is going to be a little bit different. They'll have prepackaged quantities.
Rather than having that out and fill, this is like a mini offsite symbol.
Yeah. So this will create a label
Okay, so
and dispense it and provide the counseling.
And the new prescription. That was different.
Yeah.
This is the name of the new prescription. It could be bold, but this could be like you are being seen somewhere and the pharmacy goes by and there's this intake box loaded in there.
Right.
When you get that prescription,
like the old school when they used to have the drug cabinets. We'd have 10 penicillin and girlfriend.
It's like a.
I got you.
Right. So there's kind of those two thoughts, like, is it really for pills? Is there already people?
Yeah.
Type things, or is this really not? So
Yeah.
I think the other thing, and you might be getting to this, but people were really very specific thoughts. Jobs is that away from there. Or at least should be very significant where I'm sort of on the screens and I want to matter and us face to face. So that was a really big issue.
Yeah.
And the pharmacists would close in 5 hours. It just that maybe your pharmacy doesn't work 3 or 4 hours a day. So that was a lot.
I want to.
And I sat down and worked with CBS or Walgreens for the both and they certain blood and and their Amazon foods instead of having
That's the $1 million question. There. One of the controls we put in is that if you're going to have controlled substances, you have to have a PDO, a prescription drug outlet, pharmacy. So if you don't have it's not, well, right. Yeah.
This is like very cool when you leave the emergency department, pharmacies open tonight and have discounts.
This was UCH, or University of Colorado Health, that brought this forward. But there were a lot of people asking the questions that you asked. And so we were able to put some of those in, because obviously we're concerned about patient safety, protecting pharmacists' jobs. I want to mention one other bill that I didn't put a slide in, but I just want you to be aware of. So, as you're probably aware, we have this, opioid crisis going on for a bit now. And as a result of, a lot of pharmacies being sued and a lot of lawsuits and a lot of big damages, what has one sequela of that is we've got a group of chronic pain patients that feel very marginalized, that they have, gotten on, in many cases, no fault of their own, high doses of opioids. And they have a lot of trouble getting their prescriptions filled. So there was a group of patients that worked with Senator Janal on basically access to chronic pain management. It ended up being very contentious. That at the end of the day, and as you guys know, the CDC guidelines recently changed, right, as well about that, and being more flexible as opposed to just a hard number, being more patient-centric, looking more at all the patient characteristics and not just treating them as a number. So it did pass, but what we pushed for and got in the bill is making sure that pharmacists still have an independent judgment to refuse to fill any prescription. So it doesn't mean if somebody comes in because they kept pushing the whole MME question, and the question was, so if somebody comes in with an X MME, are you going to refuse to fill it just based on that? I'm like, well, if it's 1,000, yeah, I am going to refuse, or I'm going to get a lot more information. But it ended up, so what you need to know is that you all will preserve your right to refuse to fill any prescription that you don't feel is legitimate. And that's in federal FDA, DBA law, under the Controlled Substance Act. And you have a corresponding responsibility to ensure it's for a legitimate medical purpose, period. That's all maintained. A lot of the patients, despite our best efforts to help educate them, don't understand that. They say my prescription's appropriate, it's written by my doctor, you have to fill it. So, right? So I just want you to know it did pass. Some of these patients, and I'm not blaming them necessarily, but they're calling the senators saying, I ran into somebody that's not going to fill my prescription and don't understand. Again, try to say, we need to work together. You're not the bad guy. We'll work with you. We'll work with your prescriber. We need to understand what's going on. But that did pass. Somebody mentions it to you. I just want you to be aware of it. No more policies. And no more, there's no policy per se that says you have to refuse somebody, or they will refuse someone singularly on the MME per your policy. So a couple things, where does the Board of Pharmacy fit in? So we talked about all these laws. The Board of Pharmacy does have a problem. So when the law passes, they're given authority, right, by that bill to create rules. And the board they'll start this summer. So anything that is passed, they'll come up with rules. They're given authority by the bill, by the bill passing. And then the annual process is they get notice. They're going to start rulemaking. They'll have draft rules. They'll have stakeholder meetings, maybe one or two, and then they'll have a final. So that's just an example of one. So we're going to start that process here in the next few months, but the Board of Pharmacy will start all of that process. You can sign up, you can look, you can make comments on the rules. We do a lot. And sometimes they like, no, I think most of the time they're appreciative of that. So some of the recent board of pharmacy changes also have happened. So the protocols that Brian mentioned, I'm just going to mention a few of the protocol changes. So this past year, we added both with the bathroom ring and back to that. Having practice added a couple years ago, added the injectable form of epinephrine and statin, which has been added. Emily did all that. Telepharmacy that we talked about, telepharmacy, holding rules in our state board of pharmacy schools, and then our state has been very aggressive is the right word, but active in passing laws and rules to protect reproductive health. So pharmacists can't get in trouble if they're involved with dispensing medications for reproductive health. All right. So how do you get involved? How do you keep informed? Certainly, one of the things that we did in Sunset was required the board to send out quarterly newsletters, and hopefully you're getting those now for all of the new license here in Colorado. We felt that was a huge gap. I'm licensed in Colorado, and Emily's licensed in Colorado, and these nice newsletter, keep us informed. Colorado, much we were in the know, we kind of have a good way of learning these and that newsletters that way. Certainly the professional society, we work very hard to provide legislative updates on a weekly basis during the session, and then at the end of the session, getting those highlights instrumental in helping us write those. And then, but just we have a reminder that all of you that are licensed in Colorado have a responsibility to develop rules. So unfortunately, we don't know that's the problem with those problems. So we do have a responsibility. So that's just an example of the newsletter. Pay attention to that, because those come out every quarter. And the board expects you to know. So how can you make a difference? This is a question that I think some of you asked prior to the board. I would say, regardless of where you live, please join your state professional society. It really can make a difference, whether you're active or not active. Just the fact that you help support the state society allows Emily and the state society to hire jobs that monitor all those rules and understand those platforms you're not. Whether it's you in California, Colorado, I think it's one of those important things to do. If you want to get really involved, you can. You can come to meetings, you can network, join the legislative committee, add to that for Colorado Pharmacy Society. You can attend everything that you want to, or you can just attend and pass it over into the meetings. I'm trying to meet every Thursday. If you want to contact the legislators, don't be afraid. They really appreciate that. CPS and ASAP and others sometimes they put out all the functions. So please contact the legislator today. You literally can click on it, and it repopulates an email, sends an email to the legislator. And then you can get to know them. That's great as well. So I tried to put a little slide together of like, what's the time commitment? Because we're all, we all go through different phases in our life of how busy we are or not busy, have time. But I would say, I want to support my time is limited. Just join if you can. It's certainly free for new grads. So please, you can call your state legislators. I think it's very unique, but I will tell you that you're really just sending an email and probably have like an A that's monitoring the inboxes, the general inbox. And so don't be afraid on that.
if you have an hour or two a month in meetings, join the legislative committee or provide comments during rulemaking phase, we definitely welcome those. Alumni, again, Alumni or I am limited to my knowledge. Your practice set is going to be different than what I'm familiar with. So we welcome like that doesn't make sense. And then if you're all in, you can kind of testify. You can attend a legislative meeting. How was fun, right? Sure. Really? They were fun. They're really fun. They're really fun. That you can run for CPS board position and really get involved. Or you're really, really a gunner. We have one senator in Colorado who's partisan. We have a few at the federal level too. We had a physician who was active this past year who's now surveying. She ran for Colorado State Representative now. It's actually the nothing feels fun to be saving before. But yeah, it's think about that too. So, literally. Yeah.
Literally. Nuance. That is benefit as opposed to taking the letter that CPS and send this to the legislature to do the name on it. Check box that we have to do for against. You might have people in control.
I don't think here's my perspective, and this is my perspective. It doesn't make a difference. They're just keeping track of how many people contact them. But off season, if you can invite the legislator to your pharmacy, show them your practice, show them, here's my diagnoses that I'm getting, or here's what I'm billing for this person. Guess what? They only get paid negative $5. That kind of stuff. So, always not everything they want, but I really want. And some well, it's interesting though here because that is their stuff. They say, "Hey, I'm going to get my prescription at Super tonight," and there's a line 10 feet deep, and I'll just wait for anything. No, probably that. They don't. I mean, they see line, they see anger, they don't. Basically, what is the roads?
Right, this thing maybe more because they had to pay for counseling and they put that away. And legislators that said, I'm going to follow under so at least someone that's hurt what our doesn't know what to expect.
Yeah. Well, in Sunset, we could have permitted in there that we had to counsel and brand leaders, brand therapists, having somebody that on Adderall for years, you know, and just getting our people set up. I know. We put it in there, and we can only.
Yeah, but you know you're using a thermometer.
Well, see, recognize. I mean, that they wear like Senator Jones or that, but I hope that you all at least regard. I mean, there are people just like you and I, they are good people, and and some of them literally assemble for buildings and say we want to do this, and that's I remember running into one of the seniors in right I was looking for not vaccine. But yeah, they do. They have something like all of us, and so the more we can impress them, but
they brought forms that forms will be primarily for information for the government.
yeah. Yeah, and honestly, he does a really good job of this in some of our rural communities. Yeah, small towns, they all live with those can be some of the most impactful.
2 years ago, when the height of the COVID vaccines and everything else, I had Michael Bennett come through,
Oh, cool.
and to have a conversation with him
Yeah.
and to talk about just vaccines and because he's bringing his kids in, but
Yeah.
just to have that moment to talk to them and those different interactions were definitely different.
Yeah. He's, I don't know him, but I know our pharmacy students were back at the Capitol DC one day, and we kept trying to call him to set up a meeting, but the pharmacy students ran into him on a subway and got him to sign on to a.
Yeah, he's doing this night.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're nice people for the most part, like all of us, nice people because I'm like so. Yeah, I'll just leave you this. This is where I grew up in the Napa Valley, and it was snowy one day, so it was really pretty. Any questions? Yeah.
I appreciate building that massive strata also. Do you see a huge disparity in legislation in California here in Colorado?
I think it's important to know that every profession is regulated at the state level. And in California law is huge. 13 pharmacy schools? Something crazy. And there's just a lot of disparity. But, we are a lot more advanced here in Colorado. I wouldn't have said that 20 years ago. But we are a lot more advanced in Colorado what we've been able to do. But there are some nuances. So God forbid I ever go back and put their law and say, I learn all that. But there are differences. What would you say? Would you say anything more?
But it is somewhat nice that you cannot practice the same in every state at all. So
Yeah.
you can get used to what you do in one state and then other state, but because everything Congress will be at the state level. So if you don't have these types of efforts, pushing things forward and expanding, and there's still, every state now has to be the constitutions that do that state. So, like Gina said, we have a lot more here.
And Colorado was one of the first to vaccinate too, which is really cool. Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Oh, yeah, sorry.
When the council provide us status every game, do we need a CPA with the physician in order to practice?
Okay, so the question was, do you need a collaborative practice agreement to work with? It depends on the scope of what you're offering. And this is more information than you'd want to know, but we have our CPA, our collaborative practice agreement, is defined as either a CBTM, which does require collaborative drug therapy management. If you're practicing collaboratively with a physician, you define what it is that you're doing and you need a signature. But if you're doing statewide protocols, as long as you're trained, you can do it. So the things that, and frankly, Albertson Safeway with the new Sunset Act, you can go for it. So cold sores, I think is one of the very prenatal vitamins. Those are some of the most great physical funds. Those are some of the most easy things that you can do. You do need an NPI number to prescribe it, but you are the prescriber of record. Yeah.
It depends on the payer. Yeah. So the Medicaid provider status, they did limit us in the law to 300 screening issues of daylight protocols. But we passed legislation in 2018 that also made ways to protect private insurers. It has no significance. The problem with that is that by law we have to believe, so there are no limitations, but you have to get into the first, and that's harder to do. So this is another topic for you guys are this calling, but it depends on the year what practically is there.
Yeah. So if you are doing a cash pay basis,
Actually,
Go for it.
under the scope.
Yeah.
If it's Medicaid, it has to be under private. If it's a private here, it needs to be your scope. If it's Medicare, they don't pay for anything yet. It's not that. So it just really depends on your payer how you do it. And can we work on it?
Yeah.
If you guys are really interested in this and figuring out the provider status, then we are going to have a full workshop into about this. We will cover all the laws, all the regulations, how to enroll, how you get enrolled, what is the state to enroll, when you're enrolled, how you fill, how you document, all those things. So if you're interested, it's on CPS website. It's
It's in conjunction with the CPF meeting.
It's in conjunction with their annual meeting, but it's a separate offer, so you do not have to go and you can sign up for it separately for it.
Cheers. Be careful driving home in the rain. I turned it off there.
Awesome. Thank you, Gina, for your presentation. And thanks to the Central Alumni Office that's on today in conjunction with the School of Art and Speak Alumni Board. So we need to recognize the campus level alumni as well as the school. Keep an eye on your guys' email. I just have a quick list of some of our next events for this year to keep you in mind, kind of a quick verbal save the date on some of our next days. But if you guys saw the Happy and Healthy Hours last year that were like Zoom and those kind of things, the next one's going to be Wednesday, June 14th. And so there'll be more emails and information coming out on what that subject matter is. So June 14th, there's a Happy and Healthy Hour. And then there's an all alumni celebration for CU, and that's the Alumni Central Office, and that's going to be September 29th and September 30th. And those are going to be reunion gatherings, campus tours, alumni speaker series, afternoon at the zoo, and happy hour at the industry. So there's a huge alumni celebration event in September, so keep an eye on that. It's all right now is nomination season for the Alumni Association. So we're currently, you guys hopefully have received emails that we're seeking nominations and accepting nominations for this year's Alumni Awards. And that ceremony will be November 2nd. So Thursday, November 2nd. And so Jerron has sent out emails if you know alumni that you'd like to nominate for various awards. Let's see, homecoming, so STEAM homecoming and tailgating, and we approached time now, so the tickets are actually one part of it. So on the Boulder campus, Saturday, November 4th is the STEAM homecoming game, and we'll have big presence there as well. And then if you guys use social media, follow CU Pharmacy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that's where we put out all of this stuff as well. So thank you tonight for attending. You guys are help us keep going, and we appreciate everyone. Thank you again, Dr. Moore.